The Labour Relations Act. So the Labour Relations Act, or LRA, provides our basic legal framework for all labour relations, in other words, relationships with regards to your workforce in South Africa. The main objectives of our Labour Relations Act is to make sure that we enforce the fundamental rights granted by our Constitution, and we've been through the Constitution and what those rights are. To make sure that we enforce South Africa's international obligations as a member of the International Labour Organization. So in other words, to make sure that globally we follow our rules and laws, as well as are cognitive of the laws internationally. The Labour Relations Act also provides a framework for collective bargaining, and we will discuss what collective bargaining is. And so it provides the framework for collective bargaining between trade unions and employer organizations. So the whole aim is to obviously promote economic development, labor, peace, social justice, and democracy in our workplace. And then fourthly, the Labour Relations Act also is there to promote effective resolution of labour disputes. So when there are disputes, disagreements, grievances, problems, issues in the workplace, the Labour Relations Act gives you a guideline on how to solve or resolve those disputes. The Labour Relations Act contains basic rules to control communication, bargain or negotiate relationships. So in other words, the guidelines on how to actually come to agreements and settle disputes. The Act covers issues such as freedom of associations, trade union strikes, lockouts, collective bargaining, dispute resolution. So it covers everything to do with labour. And it applies to every single employer and employee in every business in South Africa, except the members of the National Defence Force, the National Intelligence Agency, and yes, we have it, the South African Secret Service. With regards to the Constitution, employees and employers have certain rights. We've been through what those rights are, and therefore the Labour Relations Act supports that we can keep those rights. The government cannot put in place any new legislation, any new laws, which takes away any of these rights, but they can place restrictions on the rights. Remember, we talked about the limitation clause, so you can have restrictions, limits to some of the rights. When it comes to the Labour Relations Act, it can be seen as very positive because it makes sure that your international labour standards are applied in South Africa too, and it also gives you clear guidelines on to how to solve disputes and to ensure that the basic rights of employees and employees in the workplace are protected. Unfortunately, there are some negatives, and that is that trade unions, and you've probably read or heard, have a lot of power in South Africa. Now, trade unions are not supposed to, and we will be going into this in more depth, they are not supposed to be affiliated to any political party or become involved in politics. But unfortunately, what happens is as a trade union becomes more powerful, they often lose focus of just protecting an employee's rights, and they become more involved in their own issues and politics. So that's just an introduction to the Labour Relations Act.